Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Goffstown Today, a local public affairs series that's being brought to you by the Goffstown Democratic Committee. Our goal in this series is to provide some meaningful discussions of local and state issues that are important to the greater Goffstown community. Our very special guest today is Wendy Thomas. She's a former Democratic state representative in Merrimack who's running in a special election on April 13th to reclaim the New Hampshire House seat she lost in November. She aims to fill an unexpected vacancy that was caused by the COVID-related death of House Speaker Dick Hinch in December. Ms. Thomas is a journalist and a writing instructor at Nashua Community College who got into electoral politics as one of the original water warriors who battled the St. Gobain Plastics conglomerate over the company's pollution of Merrimack's water supply with PFAS chemicals. Clean water was a signature issue in 2018, sponsoring bills to provide funding for PFAS testing and strengthening clean water standards. Water quality is obviously going to continue to be a significant issue across New Hampshire, but during the current legislative session, there's plenty of competition for attention. Education vouchers, redistricting, budget woes thanks to the pandemic. There's lots to do, not much time to get it done, and a very difficult political landscape thanks to the full Republican control in Concord. Let's ask Ms. Thomas why anyone wants to go back there. Ms. Thomas, you're up.
Thank you, Len. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me. Um, you know, when I lost the last election, I was sort of, I'm done. I'm not going to go back. But times are tough right now, and I feel like I need to return to fight for the soul of our town as well as the soul of New Hampshire. You guys have seen what's going on in New Hampshire. They're working on voter suppression. They're working on removing LGBTQ rights. They're trying to take away public education money. Reproductive issues are being restricted. This is an all hands on deck. I mean, my family was 100% behind me when I said I had to go back. And it was unexpected because the reason that I'm here is because Dick Hinch died of COVID, as you mentioned. So it was unexpected, but I'm here for the good fight.
What are your personal priorities for the upcoming session? Is there more to do on PFAS? Are there other issues that you're interested in?
Well, part of being a state representative is you have to think on your feet. When I was up there for the last term, we had a lot of different issues that we worked on. Things like banning straws. I was actually for that because it made sense and it would help the environment. Right now, though, we're in a humanitarian crisis. So we have to adjust and we have to work on some bills that will help other people. One of them is healthcare. We need to make sure that people, especially during a pandemic, have accessibility to affordable healthcare, and that includes vaccinations. The education, we have to make sure that public education is fully funded, and we have to make sure that all the teachers are vaccinated and that kids can go back to school full time safely. And that's the operative word, safely. We're in a pandemic. Of course, PFAS is ongoing. In Merrimack, our town has sued St. Gobain with a cease and desist order to stop them from putting pollution into our water. And so that's ongoing. I have a bill up there right now that Representative Vail from Nashua is working on, and it will extend the statute of limitations for PFAS-related injuries. So it will allow the science to catch up to the injuries that we're finding. Of course, we also have to worry about small businesses, and we need to make sure that people can get back to work, especially women who have left the workforce in droves to stay home and teach their kids remotely. We have to make sure that the jobs are there for those women when they go back, and that they haven't lost seniority or the skills or their networks. So there's a lot of work to do.
In terms of how you get this accomplished, as a more progressive Democrat, what does the landscape in Concord look like to you? Is there any realistic hope of achieving any of these or getting any kind of cooperation from the Republican majority?
Well, I mean, that's an interesting question. And so I was on the resources committee, resources, recreation, and development. And we actually had a lot of bipartisan agreement on many of the bills that we passed. And so, you know, you never hear about those bills that we agree with. You hear about the diversive ones that make people, you know, sit on one side of the argument. Um, I'm not sure that with the landscape up there right now, we're going to get too much agreement. I think the Republicans have made that pretty clear. You know, and the Republican caucus right now is split between libertarians and free staters and conservative Republicans and moderate Republicans. So they're all over the place. And the best way to work with them is to explain exactly how some of these bills are going to affect people directly. I know when HB 20, let's use that as an example. I think the understanding was that was going to pass through without a problem. The governor was going to sign it. He even indicated that this was one of his favorite bills. But when they put the hearings online, something like 6,000 people opposed it, that's tremendous. You know, so, you know, we're just going to have to work on getting people educated, getting people involved. These remote hearings, I think, are one of the best things that's ever happened to politics in New Hampshire, because people are paying attention like they've never paid attention before. And it's made it accessible.
I think you're right on that. As somebody who's watched it for a long time, I can't ever imagine 6,000 people registering to testify in a New Hampshire House hearing at any point in my 30 years of memory around this state. Probably never before at all.
It's very exciting to see. I mean, this is the way government should be run, you know, by the people, for the people. So I'm all for these remote hearings. I hope they continue. I know it's up to the speaker. It's perhaps not the outcome that they had desired, because they didn't anticipate people would oppose, so many people would oppose so many of these bills. But this is government, and it's actually very exciting, and it's very encouraging.
What about these in-person sessions of the the House in particular, and the controversy that surrounded that? Is that something, would you consider attending those in person, or what's your feeling on that?
Well, so I have a science background. I used to be a clinical microbiologist, and I don't fool around with viruses. Viruses are they're lethal. I mean, let's face the facts. I have a daughter who works in a hospital. She's worked with some COVID patients. It looks like I had COVID around Thanksgiving, and I did okay. Apparently I had some kind of a variant that attacked my gut. So I had gut issues for a couple months, but I lost my sense of taste and smell, and I'm just starting to get it back from Thanksgiving. And and I was lucky. You know, I mean, there's so many people that get so sick from this virus. And that's the thing, is you don't know how it's going to hit you. I mean, you could lose your sense of taste and smell, which is, you know, it's uncomfortable, but it's relatively minor. Or you could end up on a ventilator. And it appears that older people are hit more significantly. The House clerk just released a tweet today that said, I think the average age is between 60 and 63. I think that's what he said. So it's early 60s. which is the age that this virus hits them significantly. I, I mean, this New Hampshire is basically a volunteer legislature. And I'm not sure that people volunteered to put their health at risk to represent their constituents. However, I think, they have to be there. And so I think they should have a remote option. I think it's a no-brainer. Other states are doing it. It just makes sense to me. It keeps people safe.
Well, you mean you don't like going to the drive-in?
No, well, that was just ridiculous. That was absurd. I mean, the problems, I have to give them credit for trying, I mean, they did make an attempt, but the stories that I heard about people walking around in between cars, about not being able to see the screens, about the audio cutting out, I'm glad they didn't repeat it. I'm very glad they didn't repeat it.
Well, let me ask you this, moving on to another question that looms large this year. What is it with redistricting in the offing? And it certainly looks like any hopes of an independent redistricting commission are being well in Concord. How is this going to, I don't know what the census numbers show for your population. How is Merrimack likely to fare in a Republican-led redistricting?
I don't know what the plans are, but we have, our town is at large. So for this election, I'm actually campaigning for the entire town, which is about 28,000 people. So we have 3 wards in town, but we don't use them for representatives. So we have essentially 8 at-large representatives. I hope they don't add another one. I mean, 400 representatives already is a lot to work with. So because Merrimack is one town that is treated as a whole, I don't see it being combined with any other town, but we're not going to know until they come up with a plan, are we?
Well, no, the last redistricting, I believe they came up with the infamous thing called flotarial districts, and those have not proven to be a good thing, at least without mentioning any names as far as Goffstown is concerned.
Yeah, I can't imagine a flotarial. I mean, it's busy enough right now. And again, because I campaign at large, when I was a state rep, anyone in the town of Merrimack could contact me and ask me for questions about unemployment benefits, about healthcare, and so I was on call all the time. I mean, all of us were.
And you said there's right now a total of 8 representatives for that district. So
8 total, right? So we're down 1. So we've got 5 Republicans and 1 Democrat. Or no, 6 Republicans and 1 Democrat.
and you would be Democrat number 2 if you're able to regain the seat this time.
Right. Right. And we've got some interesting reps that made it through. One of our reps, she is big on Reopen New Hampshire, which is, remove the masks, remove any sort of restrictions on businesses for the pandemic. And one of her first moves when she got up there, even though she's a Republican, was to put something forward to impeach the governor. So that was an interesting move on her part.
I won't say libertarian in disguise, but it sounds somewhat similar.
Yeah.
Looking down my list of other things, how has Merrimack fared thus far? I know that some towns, because of the things they've had to do with PPE, with distancing and other things, how has Merrimack fared budgetarily? with them as far as getting the help that it needs from the state? And what as a rep could you do about something like that?
Well, that comes down to the town budget. So we have a town council of 7 people, 7 representatives that work for the town. Um, so getting, what can a state rep do for an entire town, right? So last March, when the pandemic came down, um, I knew that we didn't have masks. My daughter worked in a hospital, a local hospital, and she was given one paper mask to use for the entire week, which was crazy. I mean, we just didn't have the masks. So as a state rep, because I was a rep at the time, what I did is I put a call out for sewing machines. And I said, does anybody have a sewing machine that we could use? So I got sewing machines, and then I put a call out for sewers. I said, because I don't know how to sew, but I know how to organize. So I matched up sewing machines to sewers. And then I got donations of fabric, and our group, which had a couple dozen volunteers, we ended up making 6,000 fabric masks that we distributed to local residents and local businesses to keep them safe, so that the businesses could stay open and people could go to the grocery store and be safer anyway. So there's things like that can be done. I know our school district is struggling right now. We have hybrid classes, and everybody, of course, is very concerned about going back full time. Everybody wants the kids to go back full time. I want the kids to go back full time, but it has to be safe for the kids to go back, and it has to be safe for the teachers for the kids to go back. And right now, I don't see that happening right now.
Well, hopefully if the teacher days succeed in getting everyone vaccinated by the end of May and the teachers are all vaccinated, that there will be hope for some progress in that area.
Yeah, I'm encouraged with the vaccinations. So I have the daughter who works in the hospital. She's been fully vaccinated. I have a son who works with autistic children. He's been fully vaccinated. My husband is considered medically frail because he had cardiac surgery. So he will be getting his second vaccination next weekend. I don't get mine probably until probably early summer is, I guess. I don't know what the timeframes are right now, but I won't get mine for a while.
Well, you need to stay safe. Let me just throw a general question out. What beyond the areas that we've talked about, what other legislative areas are of interest to you, and what would you think you would like to be working on in your spare time in Concord if you're reelected?
Well, one of my passions actually is the therapeutic cannabis program. I've worked in a dispensary in Merrimack, and I've worked with a lot of patients, and I can see how it has changed a lot of people's lives, and it's gotten a lot of people off of opioids. So when I was a rep the last time, I actually got a bill passed and the governor signed it to open up 2 new dispensaries in New Hampshire, because some people, especially way up north, they had to travel an hour and a half to 2 hours to get their medication from a dispensary. I also was able to, well, right now there's a bill that's being proposed. I think it would have passed last term, but it was one of the bills that got caught up in COVID. But it would allow insomnia to be added as a qualifying condition for the therapeutic cannabis program. So hopefully that bill will pass. It looks good. It passed out of committee with bipartisan support. It was unanimous, actually. So we'll see about that. So I, I try to make sure that people can live with dignity, and they don't have to just be afraid. I worked on the insulin bill that capped insulin, and that was very important to me. I worked on the EpiPen bill that capped the amount of money that people paid for EpiPens. I have 6 children. They all have anaphylaxis. And so when they were little, I'd have to buy 2 EpiPens each for them to go back to school. And it was a nightmare. It was a ton of money, and people shouldn't have to pay so much and go into debt just because of health issues. Health is a really important part of my agenda. One of the things is also I'm the executive director of the New Hampshire Challenge, which is a nonprofit that advocates for the disabled community. So I've always sort of been a champion of people that need help. I've always done that.
All right. Trying to think of anything else that we might add.
Well, I will tell you one of my philosophies in life, and I tell this story a lot. It's so when you have 6 children, I don't know about you, but we couldn't afford to take them to Disneyland. That's a lot of money. So we live
I have 2, and I could barely afford that.
So we live in New Hampshire, so we would take them on hikes, and they would follow behind me like little ducklings, on these trails. And there was one time when one of my sons turned to me. We were deep in the woods, and he said, "Mom, what would happen if we came across a bear?" And I said, "Well, I would fight the bear. I would put myself between you and the bear, and I would fight the bear so that you guys could run off and be safe." And my kids have always known that I would fight the bear for them. They have always known that. And that's what a good person does. That's what a mom does. And that's also what a Democrat does. We fight the bears. We fight the bears of injustice. We fight the bears so that workers can have dignity at their works. We fight the bears so that teachers can be vaccinated and they can be safe doing their jobs. I mean, that's just a theme that has run through my entire life. I fight the bears. It's in my blood. It's what I do.
Okay, I think you might be facing a few of them in the Hall of Representatives this year, perhaps.
I think so.
Well, with that, I'd like to thank you very much for being with us today. We wish you the best in your election, and hopefully we will be addressing you as Representative Thomas in a couple of weeks out. Thank you for being here today. The Goffstown Democrats have tried with this series, and we obviously continue this long after the fall election, because I think we're a valuable service for trying to get information out to the community. So your participation is very much appreciated.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. And if anybody wants to volunteer, we've got 5 weeks left, and it's hands on deck. It's all hands on deck, actually. So my information is at Wendy, the number 4nh.us. And there's links to, we're canvassing, we're phone banking, and just we could use all the help that we can get, because this one's critical.
All right, well, thank you very much. Best of luck to you.
Thank you, Len. It was my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for watching today, folks. We appreciate it very much. You can watch these programs, which are aired here on Goffstown TV. You can find them on YouTube by searching for the Goffstown Democrats channel. We feature them on the video page of our website, which is goffstowndems.com. And some of them are posted on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/GoffstownDems. Please like them, please share them widely. And in Ms. Thomas's case, please help to get the vote out on her behalf. Thank you very much.